Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Wing Commander David Sher. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching this ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Peter Myles Patrick Legrand. Peter Legrand was born on the 4th of July 1916 in Sale, Victoria, joining the large family of Timothy and Evelyn Legrand. Peter's mother died when he was 8, and his father passed away 3 years later. At some point he moved to Queensland, living for a time in North Cairns and on Thursday Island, where his brother Noel also resided. While here, Peter joined the militia, becoming part of the 51st Battalion, known as the Far North Queensland Regiment. After the government decided to raise the 2nd Australian Imperial Force for overseas service, many members of the militia volunteered for service, and the 51st Battalion's numbers fell. In 1940, the National Service Scheme was reintroduced to improve the overall level of military preparedness, and the 51st grew with an intake of conscripted soldiers. The 51st would go on to be amalgamated with the 31st Battalion and be deployed to New Guinea and the Solomon Islands. Peter Legrand, however, enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force on the 10th of September 1941 at Cairns, and soon joined a training battalion based in the Ipswich suburb of Redbank. In October, Legrand reported to hospital suffering from scabies, but after treatment returned to training, and the following month he was marched out to Cowra in New South Wales. In December and then February the following year, Legrand was again troubled by scabies. In early February, he was reported absent without leave for 5 days while he was supposed to be in hospital receiving treatment, and for this infringement he was given a fine. In late February 1942, Legrand was transferred to the 2nd 12th Field Ambulance. Joining his unit in Darwin, he was present during Japanese bombing attacks on Darwin during the first half of 1942. After being relieved by the 2nd 13th Field Ambulance, the 2nd 12th travelled to Wollongong and took on more personnel to bring it up to full strength. Finally, the unit was ready to deploy overseas, and in early May 1943, 3 companies of the 2nd 12th Field Ambulance took the train to Sydney, boarding the hospital ship HMS Centaur on the 11th of May at Darling Harbour. Legrand and around 200 members of the 2nd 12th were to be transported to New Guinea to relieve the 3rd Field Ambulance in Port Moresby. At 4 a.m. on the 14th of May 1943, Centaur was torpedoed by Japanese submarine I-177. It sank in less than 3 minutes. Of the 332 people aboard, there were only 64 survivors, including 15 members of the 2nd 12th. It was 13 hours before they were rescued by USS Mugford. Among the dead was Private Peter Legrand, who was believed to have drowned. He was 26 years old. During 6 years of service, over 200 members of the 2nd 12th Field Ambulance were killed, the highest figure for a non-combatant unit in Australian history. While the unit would go on to deploy personnel in support of Australian combat operations against the Japanese on Ambon, Timor and in Borneo, the majority of casualties were suffered during the sinking of the Centaur. Peter Legrand's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Peter Myles Patrick Legrand, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorials Development Project. We particularly appreciate your visit despite the challenges posed by COVID and wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.